James chapter 2 verse 19. Thou believest that there is one God, thou doest well. The devils also believe and tremble. In our last episode, we looked at the absolute origin of the Trinity doctrine in Babylon. If you haven't seen it yet, please watch it before continuing this video. It will lay the foundation for a greater understanding of what is presented in this episode. When the pagans developed the Trinity doctrine, they believed that the three phases of the sun were the three manifestations of the supreme deity as evident in the Egyptian sun gods. This became known as the three-in-one God. In order to be able to represent their sun god properly, they combined all three stages of the sun into one. And the result of that would be a picture of what they really believed. When you put all three parts together, you have one. And this symbol became a symbol of the sun god. And the being behind the worship, or that worship, was Satan. So yes, the Trinity symbol was created to represent the sun god and not the one true God of heaven and his son Jesus Christ. They found this symbolism very effective and used this to disguise their true religion. Three interlocking circles formed an equilateral triangle, which is a triangle with three equal sides. With an equilateral triangle, all sides are equal and must add up to 180 degrees. Each side was representing a phase of the sun, with each angle of the triangle being 60 degrees. Now, it does not take a genius to see that the next step is 60 plus 60 plus 60, and that represents 666. Not mathematically though, but according to Thomas Dennis Rock in his book, The Mystical Woman and the Cities of the Nations, the ancient Babylonians recognized the doctrine of a Trinity, or three persons in one God, as appears from a composite God with three heads forming part of their mythology, and the use of the equilateral triangle also as an emblem of such Trinity in unity. It is also very significant that the Babylonians used the sexagesmal-based 60 number system, from which comes 60 minutes in 1 hour, 60 seconds in a minute, 360 or 60 by 6 degrees in a circle, and 60 degrees in each angle of an equilateral triangle, and so on. 360 divided by 10 is actually 36. And yes, 6 by 6 is 36. In this system of worship, they had 36 supreme gods, which included the sun god, which they believed to be the father of all the other gods, and so was the supreme god over all of them. The Babylonians believed that the numbers had powers over their gods they worshiped. So they assigned numbers to their gods so that they could have power over them. They did this by counting their gods and assigning a consecutive number to each of the 36 lesser supreme gods, and then adding all of these numbers up from 1 to 36 consecutively, and assigned the sum total to the sun god. The sun god was assigned the number 1, as it was the father of all gods and thus also the male deity. The moon god was assigned the number 2 and of course was the female deity. The gods numbered from 3 to 36 were considered the children of the sun and the moon god, which included the various stars and constellations that these gods were associated with. Now, I am sure that you have already guessed by now that the sum of the numbers from 1 to 36 totals 666. And if you did guess it, you are correct. These numbers were also assigned to the god associated with the sun as being the father of all gods. And the calculation is simply this: 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way to 36 would amount to 666. And if you take your calculator right now and you add all the numbers up from 1 to 36, you will see that it amounts to 666. Note well the Babylonian solar seal amulet with the numbers 1 to 36 and the number 666 underneath these numbers that represented the sun. The numbers are so arranged that each row and column, as well as the two diagonals, add up to 111. They feared their gods so much and believed these amulets had more power to protect them from their gods striking them down with this number arrangement. These solar seals are almost impossible to find today, and most are in private collections where Satan actually wants them. This true origin of the number 666 is known by very few, and once again, this is how Satan wants it to be, because it reveals too much truth on what this number is really all about, and why God exposed this number in Revelation chapter 13. The real origin of 666 is not easily found, and the real truth is only just recently coming to light. But is very important historical information, as it gives very substantial evidence to the relevance of 666 now being applied to the number of a man from the beast's power. It is exceedingly significant that this number originally came from solar seals from the Babylonian religion and was associated with astrology and especially the worship of the sun. Further confirmation comes from the fact that one had to count the numbers of these solar seals in the same way we are told to count the number of the beast, which in both cases adds to 666. Scholar and secret society expert Merle Vance commented the following in his book, Trail of the Serpent. In the astrological religion of Babylon, every god had his sacred number or numbers which were often used in place of the god's name. These numbers indicated the god's place and power among the astrological gods. Going deeply back into Babylonian astrology, we find the real reason for the sanctity for the number 36. The Babylonians divided each of the 12 houses of the zodiac into 3 rooms, making 36 in all. They then divided the entire remainder of the sky into 36 constellations and appointed the ruling god of each constellation to rule over one of the 36 rooms of the zodiac. Since the spirits of the departed were believed to go to dwell with the stars, a teaching still much alive today, there was therefore not a spirit in the heavens, nor in the sky, which was not represented in the 36 rooms of the zodiac. And to swear by the number 36 was to swear by every god in the heavens above, as well as by all the spirits of the departed. The 36 gods were called deccans because each ruled over 10 degrees of the zodiacal circle and over 10 days of the 360-day cycle or year. The 7 planets of the 7-headed astrological dragon ruled over the 36 deccans, and over them all, as we have noted, ruled the sun, the father of the gods. It was natural and inevitable that since the summary number of the numbers from 1 to 36 is 666, this number, called the grand number of the sun, should have been assigned to the sun god as the cosmic god who not only ruled over all the other gods, but also was the heavenly parent. Herein lies the reason for the solar seals in use before the time of Christ as amulets to ward off any evil that might come from the 36 deccans. Now, because the Babylonians saw their gods as being predominantly evil, they feared that one of them may strike them down sometime. This is why they made these amulets with 6 by 6 matrix, with the numbers 1 through 36 on them, which are called numeric matrices, magic squares, today. Now, some positive qualities were credited to some of their gods, and particularly the sun god, but overall their gods were seen as being evil rather than good. The design of the amulets was to protect them from a god striking them down using his magic power, so the amulets had to be as powerful as possible. In order to increase its power, they arranged these numbers in such a way that the sum of any given row, column, or diagonal was 111, and therefore the sum of all 6 rows or all 6 columns would have been or is 666. This was supposed to provide extra protection, including from the sun god, since this god's sum was present on the amulet. The one shown in the picture has the god of the sun standing on the lion. This indicated the sun's position in the constellation of Leo during the hot days of August. The back of the amulet is inscribed Nachiel or Nakiel, meaning intelligence of the sun, and the numbers 1 to 36. The second illustration is also a solar seal, but it honors the star Basilico, which was the diminutive form of the Greek Basilius, king, thus meaning the same as the Latin Regulus. Regulus is the only first magnitude star in the constellation of Leo. The sun and the moon are again clearly seen on this amulet, and on the reverse side is the same arrangement of numerals with the actual figure 666 given as the total. This statement from Merle Vance further explains the need for a person to carry the amulets with them. As to why anyone use the number 666 lies in the very nature of pagan idolatry, which is nothing but disguised demon worship. The principle behind all demon worship is fear, and the worship is nothing more than an effort to placate the evil one. Since in the fear religions, all misfortune, sickness, and death are the result of the operation of evil spirits. The worshipper, knowing by his conduct that he is not on God's side and therefore cannot expect, as long as he continues in open rebellion, to have his prayers for help addressed to God answered, turns to the only other supernatural power available to him, Lucifer himself. Vance continues, one characteristic stands out in any of these fear religions. The worshipper ever tries to stay in the good graces of his God by revealing or wearing some symbol representing that God. Not only does he offer his most cherished possessions, perhaps his own children, he must ever, to avoid disaster, have on his person some object in which the spirit of his God dwells. He must carry his God around with him. This is the principle behind all charms, amulets, and magical objects ever found in pagan idolatry. These amulets were usually made of gold, being like the color of the sun, or baked clay tablets, and were carried in yellow silk or hung around their neck, which they believed provided protection as long as they carried it with them. This table, illustrated, has the same arrangement of numbers as shown in this image of a 6 by 6 matrix, and is also referred to in numerology as the magic square of the sun. There are similar magic squares for Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon, all of which have been known for centuries. The creating of amulets with this number arrangement that belongs to astrology appears to have continued well past the time of Christ. Archaeologists have found amulets with Latin inscriptions, so we know that the Romans were indulging in this practice. Therefore, the number 666 came about from pagan worship practices of the Babylonians and their practice of astrology. The symbolism of sun worship is still used in many areas of the Catholic Church today, not always particularly obvious, but often packaged discreetly as to not be noticed by the untrained eye. After the Catholic Church became the state religion of the Roman Empire, possessing a 666 solar seal magic square could get you burned at the stake. In our next episode, we will continue to explore the origin of 666 and take a special look at the triquetra, symbol for the Trinity, as well as try to figure out why the Pope today wears the number 666. What connection does it have to ancient Babylon? If you're watching this video today, please consider spending as much time as possible to studying the doctrine of God. Get to know the only true God and His Son Jesus Christ so that you can have a real connection with God and His Son. For more information or to join our Bible studies, reach out to us via Telegram at Advent Ministries or go to truthseeker.church to read well-researched articles on the Godhead. May God richly bless you. Goodbye.